everybody. Welcome to the Adobe Fonts Show, episode 30, Font Pairing 101.
Welcome.
Welcome indeed.
Hey, Ben.
We're at it again. It's like we do this on a regular basis or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're so happy to be back 30 times. It never gets old.
Never gets old. I'm not just saying that. I mean that.
We have a few people in the chat already. We have Sam moderating. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
We have Mike is back with us. Fonterific. Jan, Sean.
Awesome.
Jan and Sean rhyme. We need one more rhyming name.
Yeah, so let's make that happen. Everyone just put vibes out there. Also, if you want to, in the description for the stream, there is a Dropbox link to the file that we'll be working with today in the stream if you want to play around with the fonts now or in the future. So if you'd like to grab that now, go for it. We'll mention it again later, but yeah, check out that Illustrator document if you are so inclined.
Indeed. And if you're watching us on YouTube, come over to behance.net/live so we can see your comments in the chat.
Yes, that's the chat we're watching, so come on over to Behance. Oh, Sam just posted the link in the chat as well. So if you want to download that, that's the AI file we'll be working with later.
Cool. So I'll introduce myself. I'm Ari, and I am the library manager for Adobe Fonts, which means that I work with all the Foundry partners that design the fonts that are included in your Creative Cloud subscription. And we currently have over 150 partners and consistently add fonts to expand our library.
And I'll introduce myself. I'm Ben. I'm a content producer for Adobe Fonts. That means I do this stream as well as other video content, things like that. Started out in support, so if you have questions, hey, if you have historical questions about Adobe Fonts, I could also probably answer those, but also current questions. And yeah, I help with the Adobe Fonts Show, and really, we just want to make sure that you get the most out of type when you're using Creative Cloud. So if you're new to Adobe Fonts, it is a library of 20,000 fonts that you can use for both commercial and personal use that comes with your Creative Cloud subscription. And that's a lot of fonts. So if you're not sure where to start, if you go to fonts.adobe.com and check out the recommendations tab, that's a great place to start. There'll be a bunch of fun suggestions in there to just, you can activate them right there and start using them immediately. So check that out.
And on the Adobe Fonts Show, where we are right now, we talk about all things fonts. We have great workshops with professionals in the type world. And if you like the show, subscribe to Creative Cloud on YouTube and follow us on Behance, Adobe Fonts on Behance, and you'll be updated on all future episodes.
Awesome. I see we have a few more people in the chat. Ernie, awesome. Richard, Rick, Michelle, thanks for joining. Good to see you all.
We have Rick from Toronto, Ernie from San Jose. Where else are people from? I'm in the Bay Area, Oakland, California.
Brooklyn, New York for me.
Yeah, let us know where you're from.
We have a poll today related to today's topic, and this is a simple one. There's no right or wrong answers, so no worries. But which font would you start with if you were going to do some font pairing of these 5? Now, maybe also you can go rogue and just answer your own font if there's one you would want to use. Feel free. These 5 are just a suggestion to get started with. But yeah, let us know. Just pick a number or let us know what font you'd like to pair with. Ari, do you have any leanings here where you would go?
I'm thinking it would be a magazine and the heading would be in spirits, soft.
You're speaking my language.
I'll start with that.
You are speaking my language.
Crayonet seems too hard to pair with.
Although,
for me,
we're going to pair with Crayonet. We're going to show an example of Crayonet later with a pairing that I think worked out pretty well. So
it's so cool, but I'm like, what would I do? We'll have to see the example.
Yeah, I think it turned out all right. And yeah, again, if you want to download the Illustrator file, it's in the description and also in the chat. So check that out if you want to mess around with the stuff that we're going to be doing today. I see some numbers are rolling in. We got one for Degular, also someone after my heart, Adam. I am also a Degular fan, so I feel you.
How could you not be? It's
I know.
great.
It's so good.
We have Ranjit from India, Michelle's from the Netherlands, Paul is from the town of Poole in the south coast of England.
Nice.
Very specific.
Welcome,
Good to
everyone.
know exactly where you're from and that we have a lot of different countries represented here.
Awesome.
Michelle says 2 and 4.
Mm.
Is that allowed?
Also, are you pairing those two
To have
together, or
two.
are we doing those separately? I think probably separately is my guess, but maybe pairing together. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You know, you can pick all. You can pair with all 5. In fact, I think I used all of these in today's examples. So we're going to get to pair with all these, or at least show some examples of pairing with all these. So it's going to be good. Well,
Yeah.
keep those answers coming in, and also if you have a favorite font that you are struggling to pair with, let us know. Maybe we could help out with that later if we have time. Well, without further ado, I think we'll jump into today's topic. And it's Font Pairing 101, which you probably already knew based off of the poll and everything else we've said so far. But, here's the big reveal. And you can see here I have a bunch of question marks in different fonts to show that we don't know, we're confused and we don't know what to do with what, but
So
it's
confused.
different fonts, right? I know, I nailed it. Thank you all very much for that. And so we'll dive right in and get started. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions as we start to discuss all of this stuff in the chat and or any comments or favorite fonts or whatever you want. Okay, so we are going to get started with a little bit of some instructions. These are not hard and fast must follow instructions, but this will, if you're new to font pairing, this will give you a way to just a few parameters to get started and just kind of get rolling so that you're not just staring at a blank canvas, which is, again, always the part that, is the hardest. So, number 1, choose a go-to font you already like using. So you could pick from the 5 we showed at the beginning, but you could also just pick a favorite. Like a favorite of mine is Astet Nova or Brandon Grotesque, or sometimes you want to go classic and pick something like Futura or Baskerville or something like that. And so it can be anything that you're comfortable with that you know really well. That's one of the key things, is that you kind of know it pretty well. Ari, any ones that would make it to this list for you, your go-tos?
I'm putting me on the spot.
Well, we'll go with Fenwick since we used it in the Mercado logo. We'll just say that's now a go-to.
Yes.
It is great.
I really like Ivy Mode. That's one of my favorites.
Ooh.
Very high contrast for headings.
Nice.
So I might choose that as a heading and then try to experiment with
Ivy Mode. Awesome.
body text.
So you have your favorite, can be anything. And then we want you to identify 5 factors for this font that you chose. And these factors can be properties like the X height, width, contrast, and weight, and they could be their style. They could be, maybe it's a classification of a sans or a serif or a slab serif, or maybe it's wood type or Art Deco, or maybe it's a black letter, right? And just take a note of these things. And if it's a font you already know, you might already be familiar with how it looks and its unique characteristics. But again, you can just check these things specifically. Obviously, the X height is literally the height of the X. So that's this right here. That is the X height for this font. And this is Spirits as well. And so that's the X height. The width, of course, you can see that this font I'm using here is a little bit condensed, right? The O, in contrast, you can see it's not a perfect circle, or it's not exactly a circle shape. It's more of an oval. That's how you can tell it's a condensed font. And then the weight, you can see up here I'm using a black, and then down here I'm using a bold and a regular. So just take note of the thing that you're going to be pairing with and look at these different attributes. And we'll jump over to the Adobe Fonts site and show you how you can narrow down your font searches based on some of these attributes, which will help you to pair fonts even easier. And then once you've got all that, look for 2 factors that are in common with the font that you've chosen to pair with, or the fonts that you're experimenting with. Okay? So This is basically, you want to pick something like maybe the weight is the same with both fonts. Maybe the contrast is the same. And when we talk about contrast, what we mean is the different size of the strokes. So like you can see in this G, this stroke here is far larger than this one here. So there's a bit of contrast in this font, right? It's not the highest contrast, but there's definitely there. And then of course we get these sharp little tips here, which are certainly high contrast. So I might pick something that isn't high contrast to contrast with this. Sorry, I just said contrast 18 times, but I might pick something that also harkens back to this. It could go either way. So pick two factors that are similar to create something harmonious, and then let the other factors be different, because you don't want the font you're pairing with to be too close together, to be too similar. Because then it's going to be like, wait, why didn't you just use the same font?
Yeah, and you can actually identify any 5 factors. These are just some of the most common and most visible.
Yep.
But if there's other things that are distinguishable about the font that you picked, you can add those to the list, and just making sure there's always something similar and something different. So that's why we said 2 factors in common, maybe 3 factors are different, and then you achieve that balance. Because if everything is completely different, it's not a pair. And if everything's the same, it's not a pair.
Yeah,
So
and I really like the word you used, Ari, harmonious, when we were talking about this section, create harmony. It's not like, the beautiful thing about harmony is that it goes together, but they're 2 different notes in music. They're not the same note, but they are tuned in a way that makes it harmonious and not disharmonious.
Yes.
So nice.
So they can be the same note, but they have to have a certain amount of octaves or distance between them, that they sound good together.
Right, and they're not the same. You can tell there's a difference. Yep. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the final important tips. So when you're looking for similarities between fonts, use the capital A, lowercase a, G, G, F, F, and S, X, X. Those are really good letters that usually have a lot of characteristics of the type that you're using. And so use those as ways to compare fonts if you're not sure. If you're not sure what to look for, if you're not quite sure what to compare, that's a good place to start. And then my second tip is to create a Behance mood board. Call it font pairings or anything else you want. I chose the most obvious name, but you could just call it font town if you want. And add everything font pairing or typographic that you like, that speaks to you. Just add anything that you like. And I'll show you my font pairings mood board in a little bit. And then the third one is experiment, experiment, experiment. There are no hard and fast rules here. In fact, breaking some of the rules will probably help you do something original or something unique. And your taste is going to be the unique thing. That's going to be the thing that makes it unique, is that you're going to be attracted to fonts that other people aren't going to be attracted to, or you're going to try out things that other people aren't going to try, because that's what you want to do. So definitely experiment, 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 and just take note of what you like and what's starting to look good to you, and your taste will start to build from there. So yeah, rock and roll.
Michelle likes your glasses, Ben.
Oh, why, thank you, Michelle. They are Warby Parker's, but here's a secret. You can steal it. These are sunglasses on Warby Parker, but I emailed them and I said, could you make them regular glasses? And they said yes. So
wow.
Ask and you shall receive. Life hack. Exactly. Okay, before we dive into the Illustrator document, I'm just going to show the font pairings mood board that I made. And you can see the value of this is that you can do this on the fly. It doesn't feel like hard work at the time. And maybe it doesn't feel productive, but it really is when you need inspiration. So this is work that you can kind of casually do, especially if your brain's kind of spent or you're just not feeling very creative. Go look for beautiful things on Behance, create a mood board, add a bunch of stuff. And then when it's time to sit down and do things, you open up something like this, right? And like, love that heading so much already. These look awesome. And your eye will be attracted to whatever it is that's inspiring you at the moment, and then just roll with that. So highly recommend doing that. And if you've never created a mood board on Behance, I'll show you how to do that really quick. If you just go to anything that you like, I already like the look of this typographically. This already looks cool. You go to save, which you can see right here. And then you can see I created a font pairings mood board, and you can create a new board down here if you haven't done that already. I'm going to click font pairings and click save. And then when I go back to my mood board, we are going to see that in my mood board. And now I have access to that and can see it whenever I want. So highly recommend doing that, especially in those times in the day when you're a little bit tired or just, you know, not ready to dive in, and just do something like this.
And you can see other people's mood boards too, or share your mood board.
In fact, you can check out this mood board. Sam posted the link in the chat if you want to look through this anytime. And I'm going to keep adding to this over time. So totally check that out. Okay. So I am going to very quickly just show a few things on the Adobe Font site before we dive into our examples, our example document. So I mentioned in our tips that you identify 5 factors, and I just want to show you how you can use our site to help narrow down those factors. So for example, let's say
Ben, can you unclick the images so we just see?
Oh yeah,
it's easier to see all these attributes.
You got it. Good call. And I'm going to make the text size a little bit larger. Okay, so let's say I'm working with a sans serif, and it has a little bit of contrast, and it's regular width, and it has a X height, a standard X height. Okay. I'm already seeing some cool fonts to start with, but a cool thing is, so let's say I chose Gittin as my font. Oh, actually, I want to choose Oster. I like this one. So I'm just going to open that up. So we have that, but you can see I already activated it because I liked it. But you can see, you can already notice there's a little bit of contrast here in the strokes. They're not perfectly straight and all the same width. And then you can also see the H and the E. This is like a nice sized X height. So now let's say I wanted to pair this.
Yeah, look at the capital T versus the H.
Yeah.
They're only very tiny difference there.
Yeah, exactly. And the B is not that much higher than the R, right? And so yeah, anyways, so now all I have to do is click serif, and these same property dimensions are in place. And now I'm going to look at serifs. So now I have a serif that has the same width, the same X height, and the same contrast. But I only need 2 of those. So maybe I'll up the contrast for the serif and choose something with higher contrast, but the X height and the width are the same. So now I already have a bunch of serif fonts I could choose to try pairing with Oster, right? And I think Belly might be fun just because it's so much different that it might be cool.
Hey, Ben, can you use Belly as an example to explain what contrast is?
Oh, yes.
We just got a question from Sean.
Let's do that. So let's look at Belly. Belly will be a great example of contrast. So contrast, as you'll notice, Belly bold. Look at the H here in this straight line, and then look at the thinness of the strokes when it's curved, right? In fact, wait, I want to look at like a Didone font. Do we have anything called Didone?
Yes. Didone. Oh yeah.
There we go. Let's look at a Didone. This will be very clear what the contrast is.
Yeah, because Belly kind of played with it a little bit, so the contrast is slanted on some of them. So this is more like extreme.
I want you to notice the top of the T and the crossbar of the E versus the vertical lines in this font. This is high contrast, very high contrast.
The highest you could get.
Look at how thin the top of that T is, right? It's as thin as you could probably make it when you get to the extra light. Look at how thin that is, right? And then look at how much thicker everything else is. And even when you get to the larger weights, the top is still really thin. And you see that really creates a very specific look, almost like a fashion magazine look, maybe, or something like that. And then
Yes.
just to show you what no contrast looks like, let's look at something like Futura, and um, and we'll do all caps on Futura, and you'll see that Futura, when it's all cap or even lowercase, but let's go down to the bold. Look at how little contrast there is. So little contrast. So I hope
Hmm.
that's clear that all of these stroke widths are almost exactly the same. Very little difference. And fonts can go all the way to the extreme like the Didone, and then something like this, which is much more uniform. And both of those create a different feeling, a different style.
Yeah.
So I hope that was clear. Let us know if you have any other questions about the properties of the fonts. Okay, I'm going to activate belly display because I think that might contrast well with Auster. And we're just going to take a look at Auster really quick so you can see some of the details here. That is so beautiful to me. This font is so beautiful to me. I love sans
You
serifs.
are so beautiful to me.
Can't you
Can't you
see?
see? See the harmony, guys?
You're the ex-height I hoped for.
You're the contrast I need.
We're here all week, everyone. Um, so you can even see in the thicker weights, you still get some of that contrast. These unique little angles here happening. And so this would be a really fun font to pair with because it has a lot of personality, but I think it would also work as body text or as a tagline if you wanted to.
You know what this could be great to pair with
Ooh,
is a script font that
yes.
shows kind of the influence of a pen, because you can tell that the contrast in this typeface is based on the strokes of a pen and how they get thick and thinner at different places.
Is Ivy
So,
Mode a script font?
no.
Oh.
But Resistenza, the foundry, if you
Mm.
click on Resistenza under the family name, because that's the foundry it came from, they have a bunch of script fonts.
Oh, wait, from who?
On
From
Oster. Oster.
Oster. Oh, let me do that.
Just go to
Resistance.
Oster. You have it right there.
Oh yeah, I did.
Oh, sorry. I'm watching the wrong thing.
I was confused at first. Ooh,
But they
yeah.
have something like
Nautica. Ooh.
Natura or Nautica. You could probably pair with Oster.
Yeah,
You could
so
try that out.
I want to point out what Ari was pointing to. Do you see how the the contrast here in this font and the fact that it looks like maybe it has a hand handmade touch to it, even though it's a sans serif? She was saying that if we use a script font, which is clearly influenced by the hand, that would pair well with Auster, even though Auster is not obviously done by hand, so to speak. It has notes in it that remind you of hand-drawn things. And
Especially in the lighter weights, I think you can see it
yes, exactly.
more.
So like here, you can kind of see the pen at work. And then so if we paired that with something like Nautica, right, or something like Shabby Chic, we might get a really cool contrast between those things. And even this turquoise, which is a serif, but has a scripty vibe to it, might pair really well with Auster because of that handmade quality. So
Yeah.
something to keep in mind. And these are things you'll just bump into and see, and you might not even know why something reminds you of something else, and try to just suss out what are the details that are reminding us. All right, so we're going to jump into Illustrator now. And if you all want to download this file and mess around with it, it's in the description and also further up in the chat. And perhaps Sam could post it again in case anyone's interested. And this would be a fun thing to just mess around with, change the fonts in any way you want, and just have fun. So this first one, I was going for a sans serif headline paired with serifs as the subtitle and the body text. And I was just going for like an ebook kind of design, something that would look like the title of a book, and then the, you know, as we're laying out the chapters. And so you can see here I used Degular display. So a nice thing about Degular as a sans serif is that it has a display version and a text version. And so you can use it for body text, which is the text version, which is easier to read at smaller sizes. And then some of the details come out in the display version, which you can make large. So that's just a nice thing to keep an eye out. when you see the word display, you can assume that it's meant to be used at larger sizes generally. And you can see also that I used the freight display for this tagline because it's large enough to see some of those lovely details in freight display. And then even to further contrast it from the headline, the degular, I used the italic instead of the regular. And that further makes that subhead really stand out, especially from the rest of the text, which is also in freight. And then you'll see I used freight text for the rest. And that's that. But I thought this pairing turned out really well. And again, this took me about 10 minutes of experimentation. I knew I wanted to try a sans serif paired with a serif. And if you download this, a fun thing it might be worth experimenting with is switching these. So try switching all of the serifs to sans and all of the sans to serifs and see if you can find things that work. Even try it with degular and freight, but use freight display for the heading and degular display for the subhead.
Degular
and then
text.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah, degular text for the body text. So worth trying out.
yeah.
And then we have another example using the same fonts that we were in the last one. I'm going to move our heads so that we're out of the way of the text. But you'll see here that these are the same fonts, but done as like a catalog, right? Like maybe you might like a West Elm catalog or something. But the same fonts, and I just want you to notice how different they feel here than in the previous one. In fact, I'll turn on the previous one. We'll just get a quick example. Right? Same fonts, but totally different feel than the other one. And yeah, the Chaise Lounge and Deep Ocean, love the couch. In the file that you downloaded, you won't have the image because it's on Adobe Stock, but if you have Adobe Stock, you can download this image. But you could also just put any image in here that you want and mess around with it and make it look like a catalog.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah.
Degular makes it a little modern, even though the couch has, like, it's velvet, it's kind of traditional looking.
Yeah, kind of chic.
But with that headline, it's like, ooh.
Yeah, it adds a funness and like a modernness to it, I think.
Yeah. Noor, you used to have your name Noorsh, the SH was right after the R. So now I'm wondering, is your name Noor and not Noorsh? Let us know in the chat.
Yes.
But they said, will the rule state that opposites attract apply to font pairing too? So I think with sans and serifs, that definitely is opposites attract. They're a great pair always. But as we said earlier, there are certain factors that might actually be the same or might be harmonious together. So even though it's a sans and a serif, which are different things, they might be designed in the same era. They might be by the same type designer. They might have the same amount of contrast. They might have the same amount of X height.
Mm-hmm.
There might be something that's bringing them together. In this case, it is pretty much opposites attract. The headline is all caps, so it doesn't really matter what the X height is. Like the size is completely different. So if it's completely opposite, you might have to manipulate a little bit to make it work. So having like a really big headline that kind of takes up this space and is in all caps, it works better in this case as opposed to if all of this was the same size, like the Chaise Lounge was upper and lowercase, same size as the In Deep Ocean in Degular, I think it wouldn't be as impactful or wouldn't be as good of a pair.
Agreed.
And so that also plays a role.
And yeah, I would say if there are two fonts that you like and you're not sure if they're going to work, try to massage them and see if you can find the right weight or the right width of the font or the right, maybe all caps or lowercase. Like, see if you can create the contrast if there's not enough, or if there's too much contrast, see if you can bring some of that together. Worth trying out.
Yeah. So Noor had a rebrand. So
nice.
The name is Noor. I've been saying it wrong for this whole time. I'm glad you changed it so I could see.
Yes. I'll never forget this. And we had a question,
What's next?
is there a way to
Oh,
show all the fonts you have in an Illustrator in the InDesign document? There is a way in an InDesign document. I don't know if there is a way in Illustrator. I've never done that before.
I'm pretty sure there is. I don't know off the top of my head, though.
Yes.
Mike, do you know?
If anyone in the chat knows, let us know. Awesome. Okay, so I think that's it for this one. And have at it. Go nuts, have fun. Messing around with this one. We're going to check out the next one. This one I am calling geometric head, rounded subhead. But then I took that and flipped it on its head. And I did a rounded subhead, a rounded head and a geometric subhead. So this is not a hard and fast one. You can experiment. Actually, I want to show you really quick some of the examples that I found so for this one, it's really obvious. This is where I took my inspiration from. And you can see we have geometric head and rounded subhead. And if I go back to the document, you can see geometric head, rounded subhead, totally different fonts, but very much inspired by that. Obviously, if you're practicing, it's okay to do this kind of direct, borrowing, stealing. But if you're going to do this for someone else or publish this, you wouldn't want to do this, but good for practice. And then you can see here we did the opposite on this side. And I thought these both turned out really nice, and I actually have a layer in here to show what the fonts were that we ended up choosing. And so there were a couple things to tweak here. You'll notice that Mostra Nuova, that was the font I found first. I went to the Art Deco tag on our website and I clicked sans because I know a lot of the Art Deco sans serifs are geometric and they usually have quirky little things like that M. So I thought that might be cool. And then I clicked our rounded tag, and that's when I saw BC Alpha Pipe, and also where I ended up coming across aptly, which is what I used for the neck example. So all I did was look at rounded and sans serif, and then I bumped into both of those fonts. And then I'm familiar with Brandon Grotesque, so I just knew I wanted a geometric sans serif, and I knew that would work. And so yeah. Now one thing I want to show you is when I originally did this was in the black version of Brandon Grotesque, but you'll see it kind of distracts. It doesn't blend as well with Pokey because Pokey's kind of a thinner, in a thinner weight. And so if we just bring this down, we don't have to bring it down to regular, but if we just bring it down to bold, it sits better with Pokey in terms of their comparison. So that's another thing
and
you
also
can mess with.
The headline needs to grab more attention than the subhead.
Exactly.
So
good point.
That's something you have to balance.
Great point. So that's just a thing to keep in mind. The font might work if you just tweak it a little bit. And a lot of these fonts have many weights or styles. The italic might help. You just don't know. So keep an eye out for those options. All right, moving on. We are going to go to our next example.
Oh, Nipun says, if you go to the type menu and you go to find/replace font, it will list all the fonts in the document.
Cool. I'm going to show you how to do that. There we go.
Yeah, thanks, Nipun.
Awesome. Thanks, Nipun. Fantastic. And when you download this file, you should get all these fonts automatically. They should just activate with your Creative Cloud subscription. So you can poke around and see what we have going on here as well and just mess around. Okay, so I'm calling this one Fun Head Clean Subhead. And this is a really fun one to just start with because all you need is a font that you like that's kind of funky. And then you just experiment from there and you try to find something clean to go with it. So I'm going to zoom in here on our Cracker Jacks because this is where I used Crayonet DJR.
Oh.
And you'll notice that I ended up finding a serif. So I want you to notice here these terminals and these kind of flourishes in Cracker and Jacks for Crayonet. And then I want you to look at this serif down here and notice that some of these terminals have a similar vibe. You see these?
Totally.
Right? That C. And if I zoom out a little bit, you can see the R. there's totally similarities between these two, even though they look totally different. Well, not totally different. They're
Yeah,
obviously different fonts, but they look like they're kind of related.
they totally look related.
Yeah.
Cousins.
In fact, I'll turn on our font layer and you can see what these are. The big reveal. This is Crayonet DJR, and I paired it with Olga, and I think all I did was look for serifs on our site with a little bit of contrast, just medium contrast. And I looked through until I saw something that kind of reminded me of Crayonet, and then it worked out. So really
Awesome.
simple to do. Let's check out our other example. Can you tell I'm doing things from my childhood? Cracker Jacks and Waffle Crisp. For those not in the know, Waffle Crisp is a maple syrup and butter flavored waffle shaped breakfast cereal. So if you've not tried it, it is now back in stores. Highly recommended if you're into kids cereal. So check out Waffle Crisp. Okay, so for this one, I chose bad type. And again, I got to bad type from our funky tag. In fact, let me show you really quick. No.
And can you also show the font pairings on the website? Like if you go to that family page.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the website.
We do have those suggestions.
I'm going to go back to the website and I'm just going to show real quick. I'm going to clear all filters and I'm going to go to funky, because I want to show you how I found Crayonet, which is right there. And then also how I found, where is it? If I do sans serif, I should see bad type. Oh, there it is. No, where is it?
There's a lot of them. Might be on the next page. Oh, there's no other page? Well, get the sans. Maybe it's not classified under sans serif.
But I think it's under funky.
Because I think I
there
saw
it is.
serifs. Yeah.
Look, they're even right next to each other. So I just activated both of these and started having some fun. And so now I'm going to show you, if you go to a font detail page, you can click this recommendations, which will take you, oh, no, that's not what I wanted.
No.
Sorry.
Just scroll down.
We just scroll down. Oh, this one doesn't have it yet. Let's go to bad type. So let's scroll down and you'll see that bad type has recommendations for similar fonts, but not for font pairings.
Oh, not all of them have the pairings?
Not all of them have pairings. Let's check.
Does Oster have pairings?
Here we go. So
all
on
right.
some of the fonts on our sites, it's worth checking out the font pairings or looking for similar fonts. And you can see here, they paired obviously extended with Oster regular. And I can actually click this. And now both of these fonts are activated and I get started working with them right away and try them out. So that's definitely another way to get in there. If you're not sure what to do, check this out. Look for something that looks fun to you or that you like and start there.
Yeah, and you can see with obviously extended and Oster regular, one of the attributes that is not the same is, can anyone guess?
Yeah, see if you can guess. What's noticeably different about these two? They're both sans serif. They're both probably the same weight, but there's something definitely different about them.
Yeah,
so let us know in the
that's
chat.
Kind of a cool example of one thing being completely different, and that gives you enough contrast to pair them well.
Yes.
All right.
All right, we're going to go back to our Illustrator document. And so with Waffle Crisp, which was bad type, I just wanted to pair it with Proxima Nova because I already knew I liked Proxima Nova and I knew it was a geometrics and clean sans. So it didn't have to be a sans, it could have been a serif, but because bad type is kind of a funky sans serif, I thought, oh, we'll do a less...
And I would say Proxima Nova is a very friendly sans.
Ooh, in fact, I want to... Oh, yeah. I wanted to show...
It pairs well.
Proxima Soft as well. I'm going to go to Proxima Soft Bold. And I'm just going to show you the difference between these two. And you'll notice that looks really friendly. But watch when I change it back. I just changed it back.
It's too small. I can't see.
Round, not round. Well, here, I'll zoom in. So here we go.
Oh, I see.
It's a very similar vibe. Here's round. Here's not round. Here's round. Here's not. So you could go either way. I actually kind of like the round, but we're going to leave it as this for now because that's what we chose. That's all good.
Yeah, the round is a little more like childish
A little more
or
playful.
friendly. Yeah.
Awesome. So that is our fun head, clean subhead. So just keep that one in mind. It's a great go-to. Find a funky font and pair it with something clean that you like. So easy. And then I'm going to show a couple examples of on Behance of the fun head, clean subhead. So this is one I found that I thought was really great. And that's this really fun kooky. Obviously, they even made it more fun of a head. And then a really nice clean subhead down here.
So this heading font is Fit by DJR.
Which is also in our library.
Yes.
And you'll see again, fun head, clean subhead. This is a great thing to try out. And this is another great example I thought was really fun, where you have this really cool, large, really contrasty kind of sans serif, although it has this little R thing here, but I think they added that. And then this really clean Southern Delta Aquarids next to it. And you can just totally see the contrast between those. To me, this just looks lovely. And it's a really simple example, but I love how it looks. So fun subhead, clean, or fun head, clean subhead. I'll get that right at some point. And then for our final one, we have distinctive serif as our head and our clean sans as the body. And I really like how this one turned out. I'm going to turn on the font names so you can see what we ended up using here. You can see I used Spirits Soft again, which I used Spirits Sharp for the original tips that I showed at the top. In fact, I'll go back to that. This is Spirits Sharp. So you can see much more contrast there and much more pointy. And then when we come back here, you'll see this is a lot softer. It looks a lot more friendly. But I love this font. And then just wanted to pair it with something clean. And Halyard is a great, if you're looking for something, a humanist sans serif, but you don't want to go with all the go-to regular ones, Halyard is a great one to work with. If you're a fan of Degular, you'll probably like Halyard's details as well. I would say Degular's a little bit more funky, but Halyard is very usable and has a lot of cool character.
And it has a ton of styles for small sizes as well.
Yes, and a display size as well. And Tim Brown offered a cool tip in the chat. Keep a file just for fonts you found. Every so often, set a timer for 10 minutes, browse around, and add to it. By exploring without a project in mind, you'll make new discoveries. I think that's a great point. And similar, Tim, I mentioned creating a mood board on Behance of all the font pairings you see on Behance that you like. Kind of a similar idea where there's no pressure and you can just start gathering stuff and make new discoveries that way as well. So, but I like this idea of just throwing fonts in a document where you can really see them and manipulate them and work with them with no pressure.
Yeah.
So, awesome. Again, you can download this document. The link is in the description, and you can play around with these fonts that we've used here. And anything else? Oh, yes.
I have a tip that we didn't mention yet.
Yes, please.
It's a very easy tip. So if you go to our website and you sort by number of fonts in a family, and you find families with a large number of fonts,
Well, I'm going to show
chances are you'll find families that include different styles for display, subhead, text.
What do we call those families?
Super families.
Yeah. Super
And
families.
then you can just pair different styles from that one family together, and you'll know that they work well together.
So right now I've
the top one should not be in there.
There we go.
There we go.
So right now I have only fonts with 25 or more variations. So now if
Yes.
now if I check out,
So let me see. Let's go through
yeah,
and I'll tell you.
Rock
Um,
Grotesque, Interstate.
so here's something like Input has multiple families with a lot of fonts in them that have different styles. So that's something you could
Input
find to
serif,
pair
input
with.
mono, yeah,
Gimlet also the same. Gimlet has
micro.
a micro version that's good for text.
So let's take a look at, we
Um,
could take a look at Gimlet really quick. Load those fonts. And Gimlet micro.
is there another Gimlet or is it just two?
I don't know.
If you click on the Foundry, you'll see, or if you keep scrolling.
That's true. I'll look at DJR's Foundry.
So one of the ones, I can make a suggestion too.
Oh yes, please.
Um,
I'll just type it in.
okay. If you type in Questa, you'll
Questa.
get the Questa project, which is
like DJ Questalove.
just type in Questa and search.
Oh yeah, Questa Slab.
So here you
Sans.
have all of these different families with all different styles, but they've been designed by the same people and they're meant to be used together. So it's a really easy way. And we have a bunch of these. It just takes a little bit of searching through that super families page that we were on. But you'll find these and they pretty much have the same X heights and widths, but they have really different styles.
Yeah.
So they have the same like DNA, but expressed in a different way.
Right. So the spirit of them is going to go across, even though this is a sans. These are going to pair really well together because the details are harmonious, like we said before. And then you have the slab, right? And then we have this headline for display version that's going to have even more contrast, but is going to pair really nicely with something like the Quest Sans. So that would be a great pairing to try. If you all want to experiment with something, is try doing a headline in a Questa Grande, and then try pairing that with Questa Sans and see if you can make those look good together. They'll probably look good together right away, but you can try them out in a couple scenarios.
Yeah.
Great
Another one I have off the top of my head is novel. There's a bunch of novel families, and it also has very good support for different languages.
Novel.
So
nice.
that's
Display,
a great
mono, sans.
option.
Cool. So yeah, and again, how we figured this out, if you want to just browse some fonts like this, is go to all fonts and then just make sure you filter by the number of fonts in a family are 25 to 25. And then that's going to show you only fonts that have this many. And that there's a chance you might find some of these super families there. And
yeah, see, there was Gimlet Display as well.
Gimlet Display.
And then along with Gimlet Text, you could pair those.
And you can see Condor has 60 fonts just in Condor alone. So
yeah, so Condor has a lot of different widths, which are cool for pairing. So let's say you had a headline in the heaviest, widest weight of Condor, and then your text was condensed and lighter, you already have a great pair within the same family. So I think that's, you're trying to write waffle.
I've forgotten how to spell waffle. LLE?
You got it. Just one L.
Wow, I stared at the word too long and my brain farted. Okay. Oh yeah, totally different weights. Ooh, I love Condor. I'm going to add this to my favorites. Yeah, so like a Condor compressed black would pair really cool with like a Condor, regular. Those could look really cool together. Or maybe not, I don't know, but it's worth trying out.
Yeah, it's definitely worth trying out.
Awesome.
And then it's not too hard. You've got everything you need in that one. Like if you activate that one family and you go into Illustrator, you can experiment with all those different styles.
Yeah, there's so much to experiment with. And really, again, like I said at the beginning, like we were saying, you can't really go wrong. Also, ooh, Mike says gimlets. I can't drink just one. I understand. It's a great font, typeface. It's also a very tasty drink as well. So for this one, I just wanted to show on Behance where I came across the inspiration for that. And, the sans serif here is really small. Obviously, this poster was huge and you could walk up and read this, but you get the idea, right? It's this kind of distinctive serif and then a really clean sans serif. And there's another example down here of a distinctive serif and a clean sans serif. And I just really liked this, and I loved the look of these cute illustrations.
Super cute.
So I kind of borrowed that, but you get the same vibe here, right? A distinctive serif and a clean sans bodies. Yeah, awesome. So if you've not downloaded this yet, download it, mess around, have fun, try stuff out. Feel free to let us know if you try anything out. You can message us on Behance, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but you can. If you follow us, Adobe Fonts on Behance, you can message us. And yeah, that's pretty much all that I have in the presentation for today. Let us know if you have any further questions about anything I mentioned in this or any font pairing stuff or whatever your top font pairing questions are. We'd be happy to answer them. We've got a few more minutes before we head out, so let us know.
Yeah, let us know. And the replay will be available, as Sam said, on YouTube. So you can rewatch all of this and you can still ask us questions later if you message us on Behance. But any last questions? I think we should quickly go to the beginning and look at the first thing we showed, the regular one. Oh, the tips. Yes, let's show the tips again.
Okay.
I feel like in a lot of your examples, sometimes these tips weren't followed, but that just goes to show you like this getting started thing was just so you could start experimenting. Like if you've never thought about any of these factors before in number 2, that's what you need to start with so that you have something for your mind to focus on.
Exactly.
If you just see 2 fonts and you have no reference for why they look a certain way, it's hard to pair them. So just identifying those factors and being conscious every time you look at something, like, does this have a high X height? Is it condensed or is it wide? And then when you see another font, you immediately know, like, oh, the first one I had was condensed and this one is really wide. Maybe those will go together. Like, just to start those concepts in your mind. So it's not like these are the rules. It's just these are rules for starting to experiment.
These are things you can latch onto that can become an anchor to then go from there. It's like a little safe, little sturdy ground to stand on while you go exploring and experimenting. So, yes. All right. If you have not followed us on Adobe Fonts on Behance, now is the time. You can see it right down there. We post all our past replays on Adobe Fonts on our Behance page. We also announce them before they arrive, so you'll be up to date and you'll know when we're going to go live again. We go live every 2 weeks on Wednesdays. And then if you have any feedback for the Adobe Fonts team, anything you'd like to see from our team in the future, if you go to adobefonts.uservoice.com, you can leave feedback about anything, feature requests, bugs, struggles you've had, stuff that is either confusing or awesome, or you can let us know what we're doing that you really like. You can let us know what you need more from us and all of that good stuff. So if you've not checked,
you can also comment or vote on other people's stuff.
That's true. So if somebody already,
if you don't feel like you want to write a new thing, just see what's in there and see if you agree, because the more you agree with something, the more likely it's going to happen if you vote for it.
Yes. So if you see something that maybe somebody already talked about what you want to see coming, just upvote that. Upvote it. And yeah, our team looks at that and uses that as feedback for the decisions we make going forward. So do check that out. Thank you all again for joining us. Ari, thank you for hosting with me once again. I thought this was a great stream, and we'll see you next time, everybody.
Yeah, see you all next time. Thanks, Ben.